Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. I released a video the other day showing you a walkthrough of this mini album slash junk journal using digital papers from Cara Brandon Creations. You can find her on the Etsy store or look at the description box to see all of what I used. So what I'm going to show you today is just a project overview on how I made that mini album. It's going to be um, a voiceover, so I'm just going to show you for more details on how to make mini albums. I have many tutorials on my YouTube channel, so just go check out some of my previous videos. But let's go ahead and get started making a mini album. All right, so I have a couple of pieces of chipboard and I have two 8.5 by 11 pieces of cardstock. I'm joining them on the long side just by using a 1/4 inch score tape. I've already put some backing on my chipboard pieces, so this piece is 2 by 8.5. And then I'll take some more of the double-sided adhesive and put it on both sides of that chipboard spine. Then I'll peel off the backing of the chipboard for the cover, which is 8.5 by 5 3/4, and put it on either side, both sides of the spine. I sort of overlap it on that 1/4 inch score tape just because I don't need a whole 1/4 of an inch, probably more like 1/8 of an inch. Now I'm using my scissors, cutting the corners. I'm trying to stay about 1/8 of an inch away. I'll use my table and just try to bend the paper. Then I use my bone folder and bend it, and then I take my liquid adhesive. I'm using glue from the Art Glitter Company and put it on that tab and just use my bone folder and help manipulate it. So first it stands straight up and then I bend it over with my fingers and get a good stick. I'll go ahead and burnish with my bone folder and then I will grab the short sides, put glue on it. You'll see I'll take the bone folder and just sort of put it in the corner just to knock it down so it doesn't stick out and be pointy. I'll use my bone folder to go in those crevices on both sides of the spine. And there it is. It's a little bit flimsy, so I'll take a little piece of paper. This is about 8.5 by 5. I'm just using some double-sided adhesive just for the center, but I will use my liquid adhesive in being fairly generous here to go all around everything else. So I will burnish it with my bone folder. Again, find those crevices, and this time I'll lift up the covers, and I'm adding an extra piece because the glue dried before I got to put it down, and just work it a little bit. So the top piece of cardstock will meet up with the bottom piece of the double-sided adhesive. So to make the 4 pages, I have 4 pieces of cardstock that are 6 by 8.5. I'm going to score each one with the 6-inch side at the top at 1/2 an inch. So just score each one at 1/2 an inch. There's not going to be a hinge on this mini album slash junk journal. We're going to make L pages, and I'll show you what I mean as we do it. I'm going to fold and burnish on those score lines, and we're going to treat 3 pieces one way, and the last piece we'll treat differently. So we'll add glue and put it about 3/8 of an inch from where the spine starts. And then the next one I'll butt up right next to that and put it down. And guess what I'll do with the next one? Put it up next to it and put it down. And am I going to do the same with the 4th one? Nope. I'm going to put this upside down, well, facing the other direction, and it's going to go on top of the last 1/2 inch tab of the last piece. So now I'll just burnish, making sure the glue's distributed real well. And we've got pages in the book. Wasn't that easy? I usually wait to the very end to decorate the cover, but I'm excited about this, so I'm jumping right in. I'm using a larger piece of uh, cardstock, the purple cardstock. So if the book is 6 by 8.5, that purple paper is 7 7/8 by 6 3/8. And then this pattern paper is 1/8 of an inch smaller, so it's 6 1/4 by 7 3/4. So I'll go ahead and add a doily, a piece of some of the paper, and of course this paper is from Cara Brandon's digital collection, Haunted Halloween. The links are in the description box. I'll add this, it's just some fussy cut flowers from one of the pages over to the top corner. I'll add some more to the bottom. I end up covering a lot of it, but I just want to have some consistency. Consistency and repetition, that's how you make a good cover. You want to repeat some things that you see. I'm going to use this portrait as part of the cover. I just thought she was deserving. I ink it up, I scratch it up, I do whatever I can. I'm going to add some fun fur, so that's why, oh, not fun fur, the gauze. I had gauze in my stash. I dyed it with some ink. It's sort of a greenish brown, and it just sort of adds a little earthy tone to it. Looks like moss. I wasn't intending it looking like moss, but it's okay. And then I add a pretty butterfly to the top of it. And then I have this, oh, I'm going to pop it up. And then I go through the cut aparts and find one that looks like a hat and put it on the gal. I'm using chipboard here to fill in just because I don't have that many of these pop dots, whatever you want to call it. And plus, I like using chipboard. If I wasn't given those pop dots, the plasticky ones, I would just use chipboard. It's more environmentally safe. So anyhow, we put this gal on here, push her down real nice, glue our butterfly or moth, I'm not sure what it is. And then I've got this circle eye, sort of oblong. I like it, it just adds a little extra. We put her down. I'm just trying to play around with it, trying to get, just trying to make it look nice. Here's the hat. So it was twice as big as what I ended up, so I sort of had to cut it down. I didn't like how I had the bottom of it, but eventually I just cut it down and I think it looks good. So we'll go ahead and put the brim on and then the hat. All right, I have a ticket I want to add. I'll pop that up a little bit. I have this label. Again, just playing around with it, auditioning them to see where they'll get the most bang for the buck. So here's that oxalic acid sticker. That's from the apothecary labels. And then before I put it on, I need the ribbon. Don't forget ribbon. I add a little piece of the double-sided tape and put the ribbon down. And then I'll go ahead and add glue around the perimeter and all in the inside. I had fun with it that time. And just make sure it's even. Use my bone folder to burnish. And then I'm moving to the back side, add some more ribbon. I just don't want to forget to put it down. All right, now we're going to make some of the elements. This is for the front inside cover. I'm going to make a pocket. Cardstock is 4 1/8 by 6 3/4. I'm going to layer on some of the purple cardstock. Again, just cutting it down 1/8 of an inch each time. And I will miter the corners and put this in just to have a nice pocket in the front. I find I have to cut down this purple paper. I'm using some of the purple collection, but most of it is from the Haunted Halloween, the background. I forget what it's called, but again, I'll link it in the description box. So this is for under the pocket. I'm just going to try to layer this. I'll add some of this black, it's ink. It's a really good, vibrant black. And then for the most of it, I'm going to use my Distress Oxide Black Soot. It's not quite as vibrantly black, but it'll work. All right, I measure it to make sure it's going to fit, and then place it down. You'll just see about a 1/16 of an inch border on each side. I'll go ahead and take this, ink it a little more. I just want some of the purple to be inked up as well. And I'll put this in the pocket. I haven't attached the pocket, but I'll go ahead now and add glue to those tabs, add glue to the back of the purple cardstock, and make sure the top of that paper fits nicely, make sure it's all even, and we are good to go. All right, now I'll cut the purple cardstock to make sure it fits in the pocket, ink it up a little bit. I think this cardstock had a white core, so I felt like I had to ink it a lot. And then I'll take this purple paper. I think it's pretty. Reminds me of maybe wallpaper from back when. But I'll go ahead and ink this up and put it on top of the purple cardstock. Once I get that on, I'm going to find some ephemera to decorate it. I have this owl. I put it on some black cardstock. I'm going to put it on the pocket, just the bottom of it's going to be glued on. It's going to stick about an inch above the pocket. I'll add a little more glue. And then I take this label and this other piece of ephemera, and it's a real small piece that I printed out. And I'm not sure that I liked it without inking up the edges, so I go ahead and ink up the edges and add that back. Good, it'll still stick. For the front of page 1, I'm going to make a flap. And so I just cut this piece about 1/8 of an inch bigger all around, plus a 1/2 an inch top and bottom, and I scored it 1/2 an inch. So then I'll put the owl on the bottom part. Let's ink up the edges, and then I'll go ahead and glue the owl on. I don't add a magnet to this. Maybe I should have, but I go ahead and put paper on the back, so I'm cutting that paper, making sure it'll fit on the back, ink it up a little bit, add some glue, and then I'll go ahead and grab my pattern paper and figure out the right orientation, ink it up, using that black Distress ink. It's in like a shoe polish bottle. Then I'll put the tab on the top. I'm in about 1/2 an inch, and then put all the paper down. Whoops, right way. It's a little bit too big. I don't know why I didn't notice that ahead of time, but we'll go ahead and put it down and burnish, and there is the owl. All right, let's add some features to the pages. So for this next page, I'm going to make a pocket. I just scored on 2 sides 1/2 an inch. The paper's about 4 by 4. And I glue this down onto the page without the paper on it first. I'll slip the paper in underneath. And then I have this. This is from the Mystic collection, which is also not part of this year's release, but it really goes well with some of the images. And I loved the apothecary with the bugs in it. I'll go ahead and glue this other piece down. Love, love, love the color of those bugs. And then here I'm going to take one of the ready-made pockets from the Mystic collection, and I have to move my paper because I guess I could have folded it by hand. Here, I'm going to put it at that 6-inch mark and make sure I get a nice straight line. I just like scoring. I just think it comes out nice and crisp and clean, and that's just how I like to do it. So I'll go ahead and score, and these pockets already tell you where to score. You don't have to figure it out. It's done for you. Of course, I did miter the corners. I'm going to burnish on my fold lines. And I don't want to cover up that dragonfly, but honestly, for design's sake, I would have liked it better if I moved it, yep, over to the left. I don't do that because, like I said, I don't want to cover up the dragonfly. And I add an element there in a little bit to balance things out, so it's okay in the end. All right, I'm getting my hole punch, my circle punch, to make a little pull tab hole. I have to ink that up, and then the tops of the page, and I'll go ahead and ink the sides. And then I'll go ahead and put this on the page. I love this tag, and it sort of goes along with the butterfly look. I'm just adding some ATG and cutting this, then I'll ink it up, and then I'll move it down. I wanted to make sure I got the curve of that top piece correct. That's why I did the ATG, and then I moved it down. I'm going to head and take some ribbon, put a hole in the tag, and I'll grab my stapler and staple it in, and there we go. So here I add that apothecary thing with the bug in it. I'm looking to see if I want to add something to the side just to help make that piece a little heavier, I guess, to balance it out. But I didn't find anything that struck my fancy, so I'm just going to leave it there. And then this was a file folder, and I was going to cover it with something. I ended up not cover it, but fold it and really make it a file folder. But I just decided I love the colors. I didn't want to hide any of it. So I'm just leaving it as a photo mat. The next page is going to have 2 pockets for tags. This is 5 1/8 by 5. Whoa, I don't know what happened to my camera. But I'm going to score it on 3 sides. So the 5 1/8 I'll start with, then score. I want it to, because the page is 8 1/4, so it needs to be, each tag needs to be 4 1/8. I'll go ahead and miter in the corners and fold and burnish on the score lines. And I'm just going to glue down that bottom tab, just the bottom one first. Make sure everything's good, go ahead and burnish, and then I'll take a piece of, so I'm using this ticking paper. I figure out exactly how much needs to go on, and I have, it's about 1.5 inch, 2-inch piece, and I'm going to put that at the top of the page. I don't need paper to go all the way down the page because you're not going to see it. I'll go ahead and glue these pockets down, and then I'll cut that ticking in half and put half on one side and half on the other. Then I'll make sure I ink up all 4 sides and glue them both down. And then those 2 pockets are done. I still need to make the tags, but I'll get to that. All right, so our next page, I'm going to make a double pocket portrait. I grabbed 2 pieces, both of them are 6 1/2 because the page is 5 1/2. You add an inch, so it's 6 1/2. And then one is 3 1/2 and one is by 5. How did I get those measurements? Those were just scraps I had. It didn't have to be any particular size. The larger one I score on the 2 short sides and the 1 long side, and then I miter. The other one I score on the 2 short sides, and you can miter if you want. I start with the one with the 3 scores and just put glue on the bottom piece. Then I'll grab a piece of packing tape and put that on top of our little tab. That way, if something goes in the pocket, it's not going to get hung up on that tab. So once I do that, I'm going to grab the other piece that I've scored and try to figure out exactly where I want to put it. And once I know, I'll go ahead and add glue and put it on, and then add glue to the other piece and glue it right on top of that. So there we go. Now both pockets go all the way to the ground, the ground, to the bottom of the page, but that's okay. So I want to use ticking here just to have it consistent with the page in front of it. When I say ticking, I mean that pinstripe paper that's next to it. It's like an old pillow. So I'll add a piece of that ticking to the center pocket, and then I have this page. It's got the checks on it, and I cut off 1/4 inch of the checks, and then I probably cut it 4 3/8 for the bottom. So you see we've got the checks on that piece. I have to cut it down a little bit. And we have checks on the other piece. I've got autofocus on, I shouldn't, but it's too late to change it now. So I'll take the top piece and put it in the pocket. It might be a little bit, nope, it works. So I'll glue that on, and you see that middle piece doesn't have the checks. That's why I cut off that 1/4 inch piece. So I will glue that on top of the ticking, if you will, and it just sort of pulls it together. And it's a little different than the page before. I mean, it's definitely different than the page before, but yet it coordinates. I mean, this whole thing coordinates because the color is coordinating. It's gorgeous. So anyhow, I'll go ahead and glue this on and then we'll move on. Here I am making tags with uh, the digital kit. There's one page of tags. That makes it fabulously easy. I go ahead and cover the front with the tags. I always use cardstock as a backing. It's from a habit of being a mini album maker. I always like to have that cardstock. You could do it without covering it. The other thing about this is I don't have anything on the back. I didn't print anything on the back. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, to be honest. So I'm using cardstock. I'm also taking two circles and I'm putting little holes in them and using them as like the little circle protectors. So I put one on, punch a hole in it, punch a hole in one of the circles, put it on the back. I'll go ahead and add some ribbon. This is actually purple. Boy, it looks blue, doesn't it? And I'll go ahead and staple that on. There's other different things I do. Sometimes I'll tie it. Sometimes I'll put a piece of small string and tie it around, but I'm just stapling it. Okay, let's move on to the next page. I'm adding whole page flaps here. So I have two pieces that are 8¼ by 5½. I think that was what was left over after I cut the pages. I'm going to score both at 1/2 inch with the short side at the top, fold and burnish on the score line. One's going to be added to the page to the left-hand side, and one is going to be added to the page on the right-hand side. This gives you lots of room. Again, mini albums I make generally are for photos. You can have sort of a junk journal-y mini album, but I keep in mind a lot of people will put photos, or it gives you more room for journaling. So I like to have some extra space to put these. Now I printed out all these uh, papers, and I'm going to try to coordinate it. So what I'm going to do is have the ones that are on the inside page will coordinate, and the one that's on the outside may not be the exact same paper, but it will coordinate. So you see, I'm just messing around trying to figure out exactly what's going to go where. Once I get it all figured out, I'll ink up the edges and just place them on the page. And I'm not going to glue it yet because I'm going to add some other features. I'm going to first work with this one with the roses. I use a touch of ATG. You could use a temporary adhesive to put everything on just so I remember where everything was going to be. Yeah, just sort of audition them, if you will. And then I'll move on to doing some extra decorating. First thing I do is I have a little piece of ephemera, it's a spider, and I'm going to make a little flap at the top of the page on the right. So I put it on paper 1/8 of an inch all the way around, plus a 1/2 of an inch on the side that's going to be a tab. I'm going to use magnets here, so I put on a little piece of double-sided adhesive, find my teeny little magnets, and put it on that one piece. These are tiny. I'll list them in the description box. I suggest getting larger ones, but I'm starting to run out. Then I put a little dab of glue on it, close it so I see exactly where I need to put the other magnet, add some double-sided adhesive, and then I just flip it over and let the other magnet match up. I'll go ahead and add a bunch of glue around that magnet so it doesn't shift. And then I'll measure what that little tab piece is, cut another piece of just scrap paper, cover that pocket, and that page is done. All right, now let's play with this rose paper because I'm going to do something extra special with it. Oh, wait, first I'm adding magnets to the other side. Again, I put it down. This time I'm going to put the paper down, then I'll put the magnet on the paper, let it find where it's supposed to go. Let me find the magnet first. There it is. Add a dab of glue, and then you see it tells me where I need to put the double-sided adhesive, and that's how I figure out how to put the magnets on. All right, now we're going to work on the other page. I'm taking some heavy-duty packing tape and cutting it about 4 inches and putting it on the back of my decorative paper. Then I put a cutting pad down and take my X-Acto. I want to be 1/2 an inch from the edge, and I just sort of trace around the outside of this rose I'm ignoring the ones up and top. It's just those two roses that I'm paying attention to, and go till it's about 1/2 inch from the other edge. Then I'll go ahead and glue it down, but I'll just add glue to the perimeter and then all of the top portion. I'm not going to glue down the roses specifically. What that does is it makes those roses a tuck spot. Now you could add paper underneath this first, but it's not a big tuck spot, so I didn't need to worry about it. But that's how I'm going to decorate those pages. Now all I need to do is glue all these in, and we're ready to rock and roll. Incidentally, I may not have mentioned it, but I determined the size of my pages based on what size my paper printed out. I just added 1/8 of an inch more. In some of the papers, they didn't come out right. I had to cut it down, but it was, again, this is new to me, this whole digital world, so I'm just practicing. All right, so I have this piece that's 10 inches. It looks like it's about 3. I put it on the scoreboard, fold it, score it in half, and then cut paper to fit on top of here. So what I need is I need one for the top, the front, and I need 2 for the inside. So I'll go ahead and cut these papers and then glue everything on. Oops, got to get it right. Have to cut it down a little bit more. I didn't like where that stitching was. I didn't want the stitching to show, so I had to cut down the paper. Now I think I use it later. So the front has this rose pattern which matches the paper that it's on. So I decided I didn't like it. I changed it so I have a different pattern on the front. We're going to add other elements to it, so it's not that important, but I did want it to stand out a little. And instead of the purple cardstock, I could have used black, but I had the scrap and I wanted to use it, so there we go. So I'll ink it up, add glue to the perimeter in the center, and glue the outside. Now we'll go ahead and add magnets to the inside. Nope, I don't add magnets. I just go ahead and add paper to the center, and now we're done. Now to put it on, I'm adding glue to the 2 long sides and the bottom and putting it on. We're going to make this a tuck spot. So if you don't want to make it a tuck spot, add glue to all 4 sides and you're good to go. But like I said, I wanted just an extra spot to add some ephemera because there were some long, thin pieces that I thought would be great for a long piece of ephemera that came in this digital kit. So I'll go ahead and glue it, make sure it's all dry, and now I'll cut the ephemera. Whoops, no, sorry, I didn't show you how to make it, but that's, see the top, there's stitching on it. That's where I used some of those scraps. I added some double-sided adhesive to the center of this pocket or flap, and I have some of this fun fur, and I'm going to use that just to add some oomph, and then I'll glue that bat on there. I have to push down a lot to make sure all that glue stays. And I want a little bit of some orange in here, so I fussy cut out one of these. Um, I guess it's the tag, or it might be a ticket. No, it's from the apothecary set. So I just wanted a little touch of color, and then I'll glue this label up to the corner. I've got a couple of tickets. Nope. I have this piece that says poison. I love the thing that says poison. It just adds a real scary note. And put that on top of that label so we have those 3 elements on there. All right, last page. I forget what the measurements were, the same as what they were on the front, but I cut this and put it on the purple paper and then glue that onto the back inside cover. We're at the back inside cover already. Can you believe it? This actually is sped up 4 times approximately. So right now I'm at about the 30-minute mark. So it took me about 2 hours to do this. All right, I'm making up this gal. I'm taking my X-Acto and cutting around the oval. I'm going to make this a tuck spot, but sort of a little different. I'll ink up the inside of the oval. I have to use this little thumb thing because I needed something small. And then I'm going to grab some really thin uh, dimensional adhesive. and I put it on the bottom and the two sides, sort of put it close to the edge. And then I'm making a little tag. So what I did is I measured the black to make sure it would fit in between where I put those dimensional adhesives on the side. And then we'll put, I'm covering the front and the back. See, I have the stitching on top. I love that stitching. What a great detail. Cara, that's great. Thanks for adding that detail. So I put that on. And I'm just going to cut the top off. I should use my paper trimmer because I don't think it's perfectly straight, but you know what? It's good enough. All right. I'm going to add glue to this dimensional adhesive because I don't trust it. So, oh yeah, then I realized I forgot to peel off the backing before I added the glue. So I'm peeling the glue off as well. But that's okay. I will go ahead and add glue to this, put it on, and then this will make a tuck spot. All right, I'm going to show you what we have, the finished product. So you see on the bottom corner, I added some flowers. Those are some flowers I had in my stash. I also added a little ribbon and a little bat ring that I had, and I tucked in some of the orange fun fur just to give it a little flyaway look. I also added a couple of tickets down at the bottom. You see the 25-cent down there. And I put Happy Haunting on the top. So that is the cover. Let's go inside and I'll show you the details of everything we have. Of course, I have the ribbon tying everything together, so we'll untie that. I'll pull it over to the front and take a look. All right, well, let's start with the first page. There we go. So there's nothing new. I did add a mat into the pocket. Now, I do a second project using the same design, and I do something a little different. So make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you find out when I finish that. There is the owl on that page. Again, with the next project, I added some more stuff to it. It just felt like it needed something. Here's that very colorful pocket and that tag. I just love those colors on there. And the apothecary, those I fussy cut from one of the papers from the collection. I couldn't tell you which one. And then there's that one file folder tag. Just pretty, pretty colors. And then there's this other tag. So that's a good spot to add some photos, and it sort of coordinates together. Here are our two side-loading labels. Now this is good for adding photos to a small photo. You can actually stick photos in the pocket, or you could cut photos, small photos, and put them on. There is that fun fur. I just love the touch of that. And of course, there's the embellishments on the front of the pocket. And then on the pockets on the right-hand side, so see the bat, I added it onto black cardstock and then just glued it down on the two sides and the bottom. I call it a cheater pocket, but it did make, I just added another element. So here's one of the tags, here's the other one, and then a couple of pieces of ephemera that go into that cheater pocket, if you will. I added a bunch of things to under this rose. Don't you love how that came out? There's a butterfly, there's portraits, there's a witch, journaling card. I added the skeleton just to have a little extra color. And then we open up the page and I added that heart. I think it came from the apothecary. Not apothecary. It came from the, I don't know, it came from something. And it made a good tuck spot. And then there's a tuck spot on the top. Now this opens up. It's a good spot there for a photo. Room for photos there. So, or you could put two small ones or one big one. And then I cut that other apothecary thing and glued it on. So here's our poison bat. Room to put photos there. These are great for journaling on the back of. You could use a white pen, Sharpie, something like that. Gel pen would work. And I didn't add anything else to the inside, but you could. I didn't want it to get too bulky, but I loved this purple paper and how it accentuated everything. So see that bell jar? I put that on there because I felt like it needed a focal point in the pocket. So that came from one of the cut aparts. And once you put a photo, you can turn it around. But like I said, I felt like it needed something. And then I put that ticket down there and another one of the labels. So that is it. That brings us to the back. Don't you love that spider? Here's the spine. I didn't add anything to it. I was going to add a dangle, but I decided not to. So that is what I have for you today. There will be a second one in this series. Actually, there will be 2 more videos coming up. So don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Don't forget to check out Cara Brandon Creations on Etsy, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.